You spend hours studying. You revise everything. You even feel confident after your preparation. But when the result comes, it is still average. At that moment, most students assume they are not smart enough or they did not work hard enough. But in reality, the issue is often not effort. The real problem is the system they are using to study. Most students believe that more hours automatically lead to better marks. But exams do not reward time. They reward how effectively your brain can store and retrieve information. If your method is weak, even long hours of study will not convert into strong performance. One of the biggest hidden problems is passive learning. Students usually read textbooks, highlight lines, and reread notes multiple times. This creates a false sense of progress because the content feels familiar. However, familiarity is not the same as learning. Your brain only strengthens memory when it actively recalls information, not when it repeatedly sees it. That is why students often forget everything during the exam even after studying for hours. Another major issue is the illusion of understanding. When you read a topic, it feels like you understand it completely. But real understanding is tested when you try to explain or write it without looking. In exams, your brain is not asked to recognize information, it is asked to reproduce it under pressure. Most students never train this skill, so they confuse, "I know this," with, "I can answer this." A very common mistake is unstructured revision. Many students study whatever feels difficult at the moment without a proper plan. But exams are not random, and memory does not work randomly either. High-performing students follow structured revision patterns, where they revisit topics at specific intervals. This helps the brain strengthen long-term memory instead of forgetting after a few days. Another important factor is how the brain actually works. The brain is not a storage machine, it is a survival system. It only prioritizes information that seems important, repeated, or actively used. This is why students who test themselves regularly tend to perform better, even if they study less overall. Testing signals the brain that the information matters. Input overload is another reason students struggle. Trying to study too many topics at once creates confusion. When everything feels important, nothing becomes strong in memory. This leads to weak recall during exams, even if the entire syllabus was covered. The solution is not to study more, but to study differently. One of the most effective changes is shifting from reading to active recall, where you close the book and try to remember what you just studied. Another powerful method is spaced repetition, where you revise material after increasing intervals instead of cramming everything at once. The third key improvement is self-testing, where you practice questions in exam-like conditions to train your brain for real pressure. When you apply these methods, studying becomes aligned with how memory actually works. Two students can spend the same number of hours studying the same syllabus, but the one using the right system will always perform better. The difference is not intelligence or effort, but method. So the real question is not how hard you are studying, but whether your study system matches how your brain learns. Because once the system is correct, effort finally starts turning into results instead of frustration.